Have you ever looked at the whole story of like human origins, the standard narrative, and thought, what if like some key pieces of that story just don't fit? What if the explanation we've all been given, isn't the whole explanation?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people have, and the current scientific understanding, the out of Africa theory that modern humans came from Africa and then migrated it, is the prevailing view for sure. It is backed by a lot of fossil and genetic evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the foundation we hear about. But for this deep dive, we're going to explore some really cool and fascinating questions based on the sources that you gave me and look at alternative, less conventional theories about where humanity might have come from.
Right. And the material you provided, it does really delve into some intriguing and debated ideas.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at evolutionary puzzles, unusual aspects of human biology, and even some interpretations of ancient writings that kind of hint at a non-traditional origin story for all of us. Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So be prepared, because we're about to unpack some unsettling but definitely thought-provoking ideas about just who or what we are and where we truly came from.
Right.
Okay, let's dive right into the first major area, those scientific speed bumps in our evolutionary journey. That might give you pause.
Yeah, one of the fascinating things here is this whole discussion around the missing link.
Right.
While our understanding of the fossil record is constantly evolving, there are still notable gaps, especially when we're talking about the development of certain uniquely human traits. It seems very rapid.
Right. I mean, evolution, as we understand it, tends to be a very gradual process.
Right.
But when you look at the transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, it seems like a very sudden leap in brain size.
Right.
It's almost like we jump from, one level of cognitive ability to something much greater in a short geological time frame.
Right.
And where are those clear transitional fossils showing that step-by-step increase?
Yeah, and that's a very, very crucial point to consider because we do have fossil evidence of various hominin species.
Right.
But that precise lineage and those intermediate forms directly leading to our complex cognitive abilities are still being researched, and it's a hot topic of discussion.
Right.
You see, and this rapid change is what fuels some of these alternative theories.
Right.
Because if natural selection works gradually, what kind of accelerated pressure or even external influence could account for such a leap in a cognitive power?
Yeah.
And so it forces us to think of possibilities beyond just the standard evolutionary timeline.
Right.
And furthermore, the development of complex speech, abstract thought, and the very quick pace of technological advancement in our recent history also pose really interesting questions for a purely linear evolutionary model.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
It is.
And it's not just what we gained seemingly quickly. Some of the sources also touch on the idea that we humans seem kind of poorly adapted for this planet in certain ways.
Yeah.
Like we're prototypes with some curious design choices.
Right. And that perspective often comes up when you consider some of the vulnerabilities that humans have and some of our physiological quirks. Take chronic back pain, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
We walk upright, we stand upright, and it offers advantages, but it places a strain on our spinal column. And compared to animals that walk on four legs, our skeletal structure seems less ideally suited to bear the weight in this manner.
I mean, and don't even get me started on sunburn.
Oh, yeah.
Most animals have built-in protection, fur scales.
Right.
all kinds of stuff. We're walking around in basically our birthday suits, just constantly reaching for the SPF.
Yeah.
And our temperature regulation isn't that great either, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we overheat pretty easily compared to a lot of other mammals.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like, we're not from here.
Right.
And the challenges of human childbirth, another point. Yeah. Often cited, you know, the large size of the human infant's head compared to the birth canal.
Makes it difficult.
Difficult and often dangerous process.
Yes. Very much unlike other primates.
Yeah, it's really weird when you think about it. Something so fundamental to the continuation of our species is so uniquely challenging compared to other primates.
It is. It makes you wonder
what's going on?
What evolutionary pressures were at play here, or as some sources suggest, a less natural origin for how that all came about.
It's almost like we're a high-performance engine crammed into a chassis that wasn't quite designed for it.
Right.
And physically put a human up against a similarly sized wild animal.
Oh, yeah. We're toast.
We're toast.
Yeah.
No natural armor. No serious claws or fangs.
Nothing.
Makes you wonder about our place in the natural order.
Right. And these observations have led some to propose much more unconventional ideas.
Yeah.
One that your sources explore is the Silurian hypothesis.
Okay, so this Silurian hypothesis,
yeah,
it's not suggesting that there was a civilization before us. It's more of a what if there was.
Right.
And what would the implications be?
Exactly. Yeah, scientists like Adam Frank have pondered what the archaeological or geological evidence of a long-vanished pre-human industrial civilization would look like.
Right.
You know, and given the Earth's active geological processes, finding direct evidence millions of years later would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So the hypothesis primarily serves to encourage us to think about how we might recognize such a past civilization.
Right.
If it did exist.
Right.
What subtle traces it might have left behind.
Yeah, so the question is, if such a civilization rose and fell millions of years ago, could there be any connection, however remote or indirect, to our own origins?
It's a mind-bending thought.
It really is. So these scientific puzzles lead us to wonder about possibilities beyond standard evolution.
Yeah.
What if the answers aren't just about natural processes on Earth? And this brings us to another fascinating, albeit more controversial set of ideas that your sources delve into, the ancient astronaut theory.
Yeah, and this is where we venture into interpretations that often lie outside of mainstream science.
Sure.
But have nonetheless captured the imagination of many.
Of course.
The core idea here is that extraterrestrial beings, aliens interacted with early humans and significantly influenced our development and left behind evidence in ancient myths and monuments.
I like it. And a key figure in this area prominently featured in your sources is Zecharia Sitchin.
Yes.
His interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts are, to put it mildly, quite extraordinary.
They are. Sitchin's work proposes the existence of a planet called Nibiru, inhabited by beings that he referred to as the Anunnaki. And according to his translations, these beings came to Earth and genetically modified early hominids to create a workforce for mining gold.
So they needed workers, is that what you're saying?
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a narrative that, if taken literally, would fundamentally alter our understanding of human origins.
Right. So in this version of history, we weren't simply evolving naturally. We were, in essence, engineered.
We were engineered, that's right.
Okay.
And he even identifies specific Anunnaki figures like Enki and Enlil as the gods credited with this alleged creation of humanity as a slave race.
Wow. And proponents of this theory often point to what they interpret as supporting genetic manipulation evidence within our own DNA.
Right.
Like those so-called unnatural sequences. The idea that parts of our genome appear as if they were inserted artificially.
Right.
What can you tell us about that from a scientific perspective?
Well, mainstream genetics would explain the complexity of the human genome through natural evolutionary processes, you know, including gene duplication, recombination, and the integration of viral DNA over vast stretches of time. However, there are interpretations outside this established framework that suggest certain unique aspects might point towards a more directed intervention.
And this is an area where scientific consensus and alternative interpretations really diverge significantly.
Right.
You know.
And then there's the FOXP2 gene, the one that's linked to the development of speech.
Right.
The argument in some of these sources is that its relatively rapid development in the human lineage might suggest some form of external influence.
Right.
A kind of a jump start to our ability to communicate complex ideas.
Right. The FOXP2 gene is considered crucial for language development.
Okay.
And its evolutionary history is of great interest to scientists.
Yeah.
While there's evidence of rapid evolution in this gene within the human lineage,
right.
The prevailing scientific view attributes this to strong selective pressures that favored enhanced communication abilities.
Okay.
Ultimately leading to the complex languages we use today.
Right. And the mitochondrial Eve anomaly.
Yes.
This one has always been so interesting to me. It's the concept that all modern humans can trace their mitochondrial DNA.
Back to a single female ancestor who lived around 200,000 years ago.
That's right.
That seems like such a recent bottleneck.
It does.
In our evolutionary history, doesn't it?
Yeah. The concept of mitochondrial Eve reflects the fact that mitochondrial DNA is passed down through the maternal line. Right. Relatively unchanged.
Sure.
And this allows scientists to trace our maternal ancestry back to a common point.
Right.
Now, while it indicates a relatively recent common ancestor for human mitochondrial DNA, it doesn't necessarily imply a sudden or abrupt appearance of the entire human species.
Okay.
Without any prior evolutionary history.
So we weren't just...
It's just a specific genetic lineage.
Okay, all right.
That we can trace.
Okay, so it's a specific line, but still that relatively recent date in the grand scheme of evolution.
Right.
It raises questions for some, especially when coupled with the apparent leaps in cognitive ability around that time.
It does.
Now, the ancient astronaut theory doesn't just rely on genetics. It also points to physical evidence. Those incredible ancient monuments.
Yes.
And that impossible knowledge.
Yeah. This is where the sheer scale and complexity of structures like the pyramids of Giza, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, or the intricate stonework at Pumapunku in Bolivia becomes central to the discussion.
Yeah.
Proponents argue that the level of engineering precision and astronomical alignment evident in these sites just seems far beyond the technological capabilities
way beyond
that we typically attribute to those civilizations.
I mean, how did they move those massive blocks with such precision?
Yeah.
How did they achieve those perfect alignments with celestial events?
Right.
It feels like there's a missing chapter in our understanding of ancient technology.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to think about for sure.
And then you have instances of precision astronomy.
Yes.
Ancient cultures possessing knowledge of planets like Neptune, which wasn't officially discovered until much later with telescopes.
Right.
Or detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system, including its companion star, Sirius B.
Right.
Which is incredibly difficult to observe without advanced instruments.
Right.
How do they know this stuff?
Well, these examples are often cited as evidence of knowledge passed down from a more advanced civilization, potentially of extraterrestrial origin.
Okay.
However, mainstream archaeology and the history of science do offer alternative explanations, often involving sophisticated observational techniques, advanced mathematics for the time, and a deep understanding of celestial cycles accumulated over generations.
So while mainstream science offers explanations, these impossible knowledge examples continue to fuel the alternative theories.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move into more modern scientific ideas that at least touch on the possibility of extraterrestrial links to life on Earth.
Okay.
Panspermia.
Panspermia.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe.
Okay.
And is distributed by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, planetoids, and even potentially by contaminated spacecraft. This could take the form of fundamental building blocks of life.
Okay.
Or even extremophile organisms like tardigrades.
Tardigrades, yeah.
These amazing creatures.
Yeah, they can survive anything.
They can survive incredibly harsh environments, including the vacuum of space.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which makes the idea of life traveling between celestial bodies somewhat more plausible.
So we could be tardigrade descendants.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Who knows?
And then there's directed panspermia.
Right.
Which famously Francis Crick, the co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, proposed.
Yes.
The idea that life wasn't just randomly spread, but intentionally seeded on Earth by an advanced alien civilization.
Right. Crick, along with Leslie Orgel, put forward this intriguing possibility, suggesting it as one explanation for the seemingly rapid emergence of life on Earth and the discovery of extremophiles that can survive in harsh environments.
Right.
Certainly lends a degree of plausibility to the idea that basic life forms could potentially travel between planets, whether naturally or intentionally.
Right. So if life didn't originate here, Where did it begin?
Where did it begin? That's the question.
And what profound implications would that have for our understanding of our place in the cosmos?
Right.
And perhaps even the definition of human.
Right.
What is human if we're,
right.
if we're all from somewhere else?
Yeah.
Now, another really peculiar thing that pops up in the sources is the mystery surrounding Rh negative blood.
Yeah, that's a fascinating anomaly.
It is.
Yeah. The Rh factor is a protein found on the surface of red blood cells.
Yeah.
Most people are Rh positive, meaning they have this protein.
Right.
Rh negative individuals lack it.
Okay.
What's intriguing is that Rh negative blood doesn't seem to follow a clear evolutionary pattern.
Right.
As we understand it.
Yeah, like where did it come from?
Right. It doesn't appear to have a logical origin within the primate lineage.
Yeah, it's so strange, and this has led to some pretty unconventional theories, including the idea that it could be a marker of extraterrestrial hybridization.
Right.
That somewhere in our distant past, there was some mixing of human and something else.
Right.
It's exciting.
It's a dramatic possibility to consider.
It is.
That's certainly one of the more speculative interpretations.
Sure.
That arises when you consider the unusual nature of Rh negative blood.
Right.
The higher concentration of Rh negative blood in certain populations, like the Basque people of Spain and France.
Right.
And its reported prevalence in some royal bloodlines has further fueled these theories.
Oh, wow. So the royals are aliens?
Well, that's what some people speculate.
That's interesting.
But geneticists continue to research the origins and distribution of Rh negative blood within the framework of terrestrial evolution.
Yeah.
Seeking natural explanations for it.
It's one of those things that just feels odd.
It does.
Like a glitch in the system that makes you go,
Yeah.
Finally, the sources touch on the ever-intriguing topic of alleged government and NASA secrets.
Oh, yes.
Related to extraterrestrial contact and our origins.
The existence of declassified documents detailing studies on unusual biological materials, sometimes referred to as non-human DNA, certainly adds fuel to the fire for those who believe in a cover-up of information.
Right, and then you have figures like Tom DeLonge with his Secret Machines books.
Right.
Claiming that there's a deep hidden history involving extraterrestrial contact.
Right.
And that elites within governments and scientific institutions are aware of our alien heritage.
Yeah, these claims, while often lacking verifiable evidence in the public domain, tap into a persistent cultural narrative of hidden knowledge and suppressed truths regarding extraterrestrial life and its potential connection to humanity.
Yeah, it's a potent mix of scientific anomalies.
It is.
Ancient mysteries and modern-day speculation.
Yeah.
But it's crucial, as your sources rightly point out, to also consider the counterarguments.
Yes, absolutely.
From mainstream science to maintain a balanced perspective.
It's essential to approach these ideas with a critical eye.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the scientific community views ancient astronaut theories and similar claims with a lot of skepticism, classifying them as pseudoscience based on the current evidence.
The big sticking point, of course, is the lack of direct, verifiable fossil evidence that would unequivocally support the idea of alien intervention in human evolution.
Right. We've got intriguing anomalies and interpretations, but not that definitive proof.
Right. And when it comes to Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of Sumerian texts, it's important to note that many scholars in the fields of Assyriology and ancient languages dispute his translations.
Okay.
And the conclusions that he drew from them,
the
context and the meaning of these ancient writings are complex and subject to ongoing scholarly debate.
Right.
So
after considering these anomalies, these ancient accounts, these modern scientific threads, does the idea that humanity might have origins beyond Earth seem a little less far-fetched? I think the exploration of these alternative ideas certainly encourages us to question and consider possibilities that extend beyond the conventional narrative. Regardless of whether one finds these theories convincing, they undoubtedly highlight the many unanswered questions that still exist about our origins.
Absolutely.
And the immensity of the cosmos.
So what do you think, do you find the traditional evolutionary narrative fully satisfying?
Yeah.
Or do these alternative ideas raise compelling questions
that deserve further consideration? Yeah, it raises a question for us all.
Yeah.
What level of evidence do we require to shift our understanding of something as fundamental as our origins?
Yeah.
And are we open to possibilities that might challenge our current paradigms and assumptions?
Consider this. If our understanding of where we come from is incomplete,
right,
how might that change our perspective on where we're going and perhaps who else might be out there?
Yeah, those are great questions.
It's a thought to sit with, to explore on your own, and who knows what future discoveries might bring to light.
Right.
That might further shape our understanding of our cosmic origins.
Absolutely.
It's so cool.
Fascinating stuff.
It really is.
Thanks as always for watching today, and if you like our videos, please don't forget to click on the like button and comment in the comments section, and if you already haven't done so, why not subscribe? It is completely free.